Are you ready?
No,
No?
no,
Did you get any sleep?
a little bit.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I did go to sleep at some point in time.
Yeah.
I think it was 1:30.
That's late and early at the same time.
Yes, I know. And then, surprisingly, very, very much surprisingly and unusually, there was space in my bed.
What?
Well, I actually went to sleep in my own bed last night.
Did everybody go to sleep in their own beds?
No,
No.
they don't. You do.
No, did they? Did they though? Last
Oh,
night?
they did last night, yes.
Yeah.
Not usually, but yes, last night they did.
Why did they do that last night?
I don't know. It's a very good question. I have no idea. But they did, and therefore there was space in my bed, and therefore I went to sleep in my bed. And that was very nice.
Until? There's always an until.
Of course there is an until. Until Jasmine called me. I said, Mom, lie down with me. So I lied down with her. And then I had to get up because she needed more milk. And then I had to lie down back with her and cuddle her a lot.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That's kids for you.
Yeah, she likes to cuddle. It's very nice. Likes to cuddle with me, that is.
Yeah, she doesn't like Daddy.
Daddy stinks. Like mints, apparently.
Like M-I-N-T-S.
Yeah.
Not M-I-N-C-E.
No. Not the meat type of mints. No.
The minty type of mints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, she's funny, isn't she? She's really funny.
She doesn't like Daddy. At the moment.
Sometimes.
I don't want you. That's her favorite phrase.
Yeah, it is now. It's funny she went
I don't
through.
want you. I want Mommy. Until Mommy's not here.
Yeah.
And then it's
Daddy?
you will do.
Yeah, exactly. But it's always been like that, hasn't it? It's been like more or less, sometimes more and sometimes less, but it's I think it's always been like that a little bit.
It's always been like that, the same way that Zora
Has always preferred Daddy, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want Mommy, I want Daddy. That's weird.
I remember her when she was Jasmine's age, and I would say, I love you, Zora. And Jasmine always, when I say to Jasmine always says, I love you, Mommy. And Zora always used to say, I don't love you, I love Daddy.
There you go.
Oh dear.
There you go. This coffee that I made tastes like shit.
It does. Have you noticed?
Oh, you think the same?
Well, I thought it was supposed to taste like shit to wake me up, kinda thing.
It's because I can't put milk in it. Because we're fasting. Again.
You know what's really good about it?
Everything.
That you didn't. That you finally listened to me and didn't bring me any breakfast. That's good.
Yeah, well, it wasn't because I was thinking about breakfast, it was because I wasn't thinking about breakfast.
Well, you actually, when you're fasting, you actually have to actively think about not breakfast.
Not breakfasting.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Because you could accidentally breakfast if you didn't think.
Yeah. Accidentally eating.
Yeah.
Is a human condition.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I accidentally put this shit in my mouth.
That's why there's an epidemic of overweightness and obesity.
Well, I can't
just accidentally eat.
I still can't get over that conversation I had with Mother's, I don't know who it is, the Betty person, right? Which is like, I tried this diet and this diet and this diet and this diet, and none of these diets really seem to work. And I was like, well, why don't you just stop putting shit in your mouth?
Mm.
Maybe you need to try like no diet for a while. And she's giving me this stare, like that's a complete impossibility. I don't know.
No, it's the thing. It's the whole diet thing, isn't it?
Oh, it said food is a drug. Drug is control. You know.
It's because people choose. It's because, well, people know it now, but they didn't know it back then, I suppose. That the diets don't work, because diet is, when you say a diet, it suggests that it's a short-term lose weight thing. You know, that's not sustainable.
Yeah, rather than a daily habit.
Way of eating.
You know what the statistics are? The official statistics are that 99% of people who diet eventually put the weight back on again. 99%.
Yeah,
Only
I believe
1% of people who go on who attempt to lose weight do it in a sustainable way over a long term. Only 1%. That's an incredibly low statistic for success. I mean, if someone were to say there's a 1% chance this business will be successful, will you invest in it? People
No,
would laugh, right?
no.
But, and it's human logic. Apply that principle to diets, and you get all these people taking all these programs and joining all these websites and all these online communities and groups and stuff to share their information about how everything works, and
the online
yet
communities
it's all
can actually be
unsuccessful.
helpful.
Sorry?
The online communities can actually be helpful.
Yeah, I'm not saying that individual
Yeah.
people can't give relevant advice at the right time to point someone in the right direction. But the fact that you need, it seems like 20% of the Western world needs help stopping putting its hand up to its mouth.
That's not.
It's crazy.
You're oversimplifying it, though.
What?
You're oversimplifying.
Well, no.
it.
I am simplifying it. It's true, because that's a fact. That in order to eat, you have to put your hand up to your mouth.
I don't think it's as easy as you're putting it, because if you think about it, okay, think about it.
That's my phrase.
Stop talking about it. Think about it for a second. Yeah, food is an addiction. Okay. Or can be an addiction, and it's extremely evil. Yeah, because when you've got any other type of addiction, like smoking, drinking, taking drugs, right? You can stop completely. Yeah, and everybody will tell you. Every single person who treats addicted people will tell you that either you stop 100% completely, or you will start again, right? There's no such thing as limiting it to a little bit. Yeah, if a person smokes and they partially stop smoking and they go from 20 cigarettes to 2 cigarettes a day, they will gradually and eventually go back up to 20, right? Because it's either everything or nothing. And that works with every addiction. You can't just take heroin once a day, right? Or whatever, once a week. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. It's the same with drinking and alcoholics. You have to either completely stop drinking, or it's going to all come back. Yeah. But you can't do that with food, or you would die, right? So if you have an unhealthy relationship with food, if you have an addiction with food, it's extremely difficult to beat that addiction, because you can't just quit. You still have to eat. Yeah. If you have an addiction to sugar, and lots and lots and lots of people have addiction to food, when you think about it psychologically, right? When you think about what they are using the food for. Yeah, not to eat and get energy, but they use the food, especially the sweet food, to sort out all kinds of psychological problems. Yeah. And often people use it for exactly the same purposes that they use any other type of addiction. To beat stress, to calm down, to unwind, to God knows what, just, name it. So, and it's hard, right? Because when you've got an addiction and you still have to take the drug, you can't just quit 100%. It's much, much harder to control it than when you can just quit.
Do you think those kind of addictions are environmental or genetic?
Addictions, they're psychological. I'm not sure what you mean by environmental.
Caused. Well, like the question that I'm asking is related to the debate as to whether it's more predestined before birth or I don't know, like post-destination, not after birth.
Well, predestined before birth does not have to be genetic. Yeah. Predestined before birth can be environmental if you think about drug addiction, right? You get kids being born addicted to drugs if their mother takes drugs, and it's not genetic. Yeah, it's environmental. But it's to put it in your terms, it's completely environmental. It's not genetic. Well, that's my opinion. Okay, I haven't obviously done any genetic analysis of anybody in my life, but that would be my best guess, because it is research shows, yes, and treatment and just experience in general shows that that addictions are just a symptom of underlying psychological problems.
Yeah, in general.
In general, yes. Most.
It's the mask.
Yeah.
That people wear in order to suppress the emotional state.
And it's complex. Obviously, it's a complex topic, and why you choose certain addictions. I mean, maybe that's just up to luck. If you're giving little bits of alcohol ever since you were a child and you see other people drinking, then you will perhaps choose alcoholism rather than gambling, right? But if there are underlying psychological problems, then you're likely to choose one or another. Or food.
Yeah, I guess that the people are. Now, I had this theory that it's impossible to erase addictions. I still think it's mainly true. That you can transform them, but you can't erase them. I think it's part of people's character. And obviously I'm not going to say it's like 100% of the cases, but I think that the only way to manage addictions is to transform a negative addiction into a positive addiction, so that you are still addicted to something, but it's more healthy. It's better for you because you, I think, can have positive addictions. And the term addiction suggests that you're doing something too much, but let's just say that there are things that you like and you want to do them more. So if you've got, you could actually have a relatively healthy addiction to healthy food, for example. Yeah, I'm not saying that you like don't eat. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying you go on an extreme diet, for example, and only eat one type of food or whatever. But it can be a healthy addiction to avoid things that are essentially not good for you. So That's, I think, a positive way to look at it. Or to take regular exercise could be some kind of addiction, but perhaps an important one. It can be channeled. You can take what would otherwise be a negative situation or negative energy, and you can try to channel it in a positive way, so at least there's an outcome that is beneficial to you and you have some control over it. It might be something as simple as going for a walk every day. I mean, you can kind of addict yourself to anything that you want to if you really set your mind to it. And of course there are addictions not just to objects and things and food, but other elements like addictions to people, for example, which are part of strong psychological bonds, perhaps like children to their parents, where basically children walk around seeking their parents' approval, and it, in my estimation, doesn't ever seem to end. I think that people spend their entire lives seeking their parents' approval, and that is one of the primary drivers that most people don't understand in human psychology. And even when people don't think that they're seeking their parents' approval, they still are, because it's almost like religion in the sense of belief, where even no belief is still a belief, and even not seeking your parents' approval is still, in a sense, being attached to your parents' approval, but just driving in the opposite direction. And a lot of people don't realize the fact that it doesn't end, because you create that attachment when you're really young, and then you grow up developing it, and it's like some kind of invisible umbilical cord. It's sort of always there, and even when the parents die, it doesn't disappear, because there's still that hereditary attachment.
I know what you mean. I think that you're very loosely interchanging the seeking of approval and attachment. I don't think that those things are interchangeable.
But seeking approval is a type of attachment. I'm not saying that they're the same thing, but seeking approval is a kind of attachment.
Okay. Attachment in the sense of relationship. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering about that actually. I don't know if I agree or disagree, because I never thought about it into any depth really. So I think I should, because it's an interesting topic, and maybe do a little research, because something just sounds off, right? To me. I don't think that. I can imagine that children spend their entire life seeking their parents' approval if they have disapproving parents. But if parents give approval generously, then perhaps children don't have to seek it.
Yes, but it's still there, and that's not like an opposite point.
No. I mean, that's what I always wondered. Yeah, because I know that I seek approval too much, but not just my parents, but generally people, yeah? And
we all seek appreciation.
Always wondering if that is a natural thing, or if that is a result of the environment where we grew up, the schooling, for example, yeah? The reward and punishment system, yeah? Is it
It's a
really
brain system.
is it really natural to a human being to seek approval, or is it ingrained in our brains because we all grew up in the same kind of reward and punishment system?
It strikes me as being part of the tribal nature of people. The need to belong to a group for the simple reason that groups provide some level of security.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to have some commonality. You have to have something that bonds people together, that brings
Yes,
them
but
together.
To be a part of community, I would think that to be a valid part of community, they don't have to approve of everything you do, right? You just have to bring in your share. Yeah? I mean, you have
to
to
the community.
You obviously have to abide by certain rules. You can't go around and, I don't know, eating newborns, right? or something. I don't know.
Not that you'd want to, of course.
I was just imagining a tribe. Yeah, I obviously wasn't relating that to the modern world. Okay. And just do your job. So you have to abide by certain rules, but I think it's deeper than that in our society. I think it's if you think about school, yeah, and the way all of it runs on approval, all of it, right? Either they will approve of you and give you good marks, or they will disapprove of you and give you bad marks, and then your parents' approval depends on your school's approval, yeah. Because you bring bad marks home, and your parents will disapprove of your bad marks and will approve of your good marks, and it's just all very, very stressful. I mean, it's got to be very stressful for the kid too, and they are forever seeking approval.
The kid ends up being a ping pong ball being batted between school and home, where they go to school and the reward system is the seeking of approval.
I've got a feeling that the more demanding the parent is, the more the child seeks approval, right? Would that be correct?
Well, that makes sense.
Because
that makes sense up to a point, but if you consider holistic principles,
at the beginning, we're talking about small children, young children, because that's when everything forms, right?
Yeah, but wait, because you do fall into the role of seeking approval when that is what the parent expects of the child.
Mm-hmm.
However, you also fall into the role of seeking approval when the system for approval doesn't exist, because you still need it. So it works on both sides. It's like if food is there, you'll eat it because it's there and you know you need it. But if the food is not there, you'll still feel hungry for it.
Mm-hmm. I understand. Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
So I would call it like a simple principle of belief, where you can't escape from it, because to not believe is still to be attached to belief.
Mm-hmm. So when parents give approval generously, children are still taking it. They're just not obviously desperately looking for it.
Well, it's part of the natural flow of things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that which is not there influences things as much as that which is there.
I guess that's the bottom that's really the bottom and basis of all parenting, isn't it? Then to give approval for the right things.
Oh well, yeah, but that just creates the question of like, what are the right things?
Yeah,
and,
I know.
And that's going to be different for everybody, and that's
Like,
going to depend on
it's
your
like,
community
how
and
do you
culture.
learn your child to like trust themselves and trust their own brains and their own critical thinking and stuff if you're doing it through them seeking for approval, right? It's a bit of a
Oh yeah,
contradiction, isn't it? Like, be yourself, be happy in your own body and in your own mind, and don't play anybody else's games. And
well that's
at
still a
the same
program.
time, it's the game, right?
Yeah.
You're just giving approval for them acting in a certain way. It's difficult.
Well, freedom is still a program, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, it's still a concept.
Mhm.
It's the more free you become, the more you attach yourself to something different, and the attachment to freedom is a giant contradiction, because take a principle like private property. Now, one of the fundamental underlying principles of freedom is the right to privacy, including private property. However, property then bonds you to the property.
Mhm.
The material bonds you to the material. The wealth bonds you to the wealth. And so freedom is generally considered by everybody to be desirable. But absolute freedom would in essence be death.
Mhm.
And so you wouldn't want that either.
Yeah. We watched a great movie yesterday. You put on a great movie for us. It was The Wrinkle in Time, you said it was called?
Yeah, I
You didn't watch it, but
I
it
didn't
was
watch it
really, really good.
because that's what I do. I'm like, let's make sure everyone's entertained, and then I'll go and do my own thing.
Uh-huh. No, you missed out. It was a really good movie. It's got to be a very good book. I'm gonna have to get it somewhere in the library, maybe, if they have it.
Or maybe buy it for Will
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
to read, for example.
Yeah, if he's still interested.
Well,
in
it's
it.
funny because I popped through to the living room at various points during the film to see to see if it was interesting and people were enjoying it. And the little bits that I saw of it looked terrible.
It was really weird, but it was really. It had good ideas in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it had really good messages.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's got to be quite helpful for kids that are struggling with dealing with things happening to them in the past and dealing with their own self-worth and stuff like that. It's really nice.
It's
And
fun.
it got me thinking about things. It's just the kind of movie that gets you thinking about things. No, it's good. And I was, it's like we were talking about this. This is actually connected to what we were talking about a second ago there. About how you're basically programming your child since the beginning, and it's pretty fucking scary shit, right? Because when you have no idea what you're doing, yeah, and when you never explore any psychology or parenting or anything, and you just go and you just do it when you're not aware as a parent, then it's becomes kind of automatic program, and you just pass on whatever has been passed on to you when you were a kid, right? And you have
it's the giant hot rock of history.
Yeah,
You just keep
exactly.
handing on to people.
And you have certain tools to deal with things that your parents used to deal with you, yeah. and you just go on, and then you find it easy in some ways and hard in the other ways, and you believe that what you're doing is right, and you don't question anything, and it's cool, right? Well, it's not cool, but it's cool. It's cool for the individual because they're not stressed out by it. But when you start thinking about things, and when you start learning about psychology and about how all this works, there is a point where, I don't know if this is for everybody, it was like that for me, where you just become terrified because you realize that every single thing that you do or that you say is leaving a mark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And is forming your child forever. Yeah. That the words that you say to your child are not going to be forgotten, but they're going to be, imprinted in the brain forever. Yeah, and they will govern their entire lives by that's a bit of an exaggeration because obviously they are a person. Yeah. So their personality comes into it as well, but their personality is hugely formed by you and everything that you do and everything that they observe. It's not just what you say to them, but it's also what you do when you think they're not watching, but they're still watching, and it's a scary shit. Yeah, because it's not just responsibility for the child to make sure that they're dressed and fed, but you've got a huge responsibility for their entire mental state, right? And so you get to a point where it all becomes really scary. And
Yeah, well, you're right. People don't think about it very much,
yeah.
and they pass it off very glibly as natural or normal,
Uh-huh.
and it's definitely not. The same way that people will wash over very quickly big important things that happen, and
Mhm.
not really want to focus on them or think about them too much. You hear the classic phrases in life of, "Oh, that's just the way I am,"
Mhm.
or very often people say it doesn't matter, but I kind of think that everything matters. That there's as you said, the kids are watching everything.
Yeah. When you've had a traumatic experience in the past, and you are aware of it, right? And you're aware of how it formed you. You kind of look at things differently. You think about things a bit more, and you want to make sure that your kids are okay. Yeah, that they don't have to deal with all the shit that you have to deal with in the adult life, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have certain things that you'd rather be different. It may be in your childhood when you were growing up or whatever, that you feel that hadn't formed you in a positive way, yeah, and that you feel that you have to deal with as an adult, and you want to prevent your children to have to deal with the same stuff. Yeah, you're like, okay, this is really hard. I hope I do everything right so that my kids don't have to go through this, right? And yesterday got me thinking, and for the first time I felt like it just made me feel a bit more relaxed about everything, because I realized certain connections and certain things and certain good things about bad things, and how the bad. Jesus Christ. Okay. Everything just fell.
Yep. Yep.
Sorry, because things
That's-
piled up under G's desk and everything just fell right now.
That's weird.
And I've lost my train of thoughts completely.
You were
Yeah,
talking about the film, and
you,
it made you think about
yeah, and
things
and it just made me.
maybe bad things were good things.
Yeah, it just made me a bit more relaxed about everything, because it made me see more clearly that the bad things make you grow in a way in which perhaps you wouldn't grow if they never happened. And
Mm-hmm.
and therefore, even if I am fucking something up horribly in my bringing the children up, right? I kind of realized that I can trust them to figure things out. And even though that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try my best to not fuck everything up or anything up, yeah. It kind of makes you realize, because you realize that it's not possible to not fuck anything up in the parenting. You're very likely to fuck something up. Because if things have been fucked up for you, then you're very likely to, you can mitigate it, but you're very likely to fuck something up as well. I mean, you can't just, I think it's unachievable goal to not fuck absolutely anything up when you're parenting. And I just kind of started thinking yesterday that maybe it's not such a bad thing, that it just made me feel it's okay.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad thing if you're able to reflect on it.
No, because I was talking about a long period, like long term. I was thinking like, okay, well, if my kids have to go to a freaking psychotherapist when they're adults because they have to deal with some shit that I fucked up while I was parenting, yeah, it's still not going to be such a bad thing, because it's going to help them grow into stronger and more rounded individuals. I think that people who actually had to deal with shit and became more aware as a result of it, maybe in a certain way have advantage to people who didn't have to deal with shit, didn't become more aware about things. You know what I mean? Doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think what you're doing is you're talking about those. What's the crazy example? Suicide statistics is the crazy example amongst young people, where most of the young people who commit suicide come from middle class to upper middle class families, where they've got all the basics covered. And it's at that point, when you've got all the basics covered, that some of the parenting minds turn off, and they're not aware of everything that's going on. Like when your kids got everything that's normal or accepted within society, when you've got the garden and the PlayStation, and you're a member of the team, and you're getting everything done on time, whatever, when everything appears to be okay on the surface, it's very often not, under the surface, not okay. And of course, I'm reflecting back and speaking about my own experiences, basically, where the model student at school tried to run away from home several times as a teenager. And obviously things were not okay, and nobody wanted to deal with it. And my parents' attitude to it was to treat it all as a big joke. And that didn't help at all. And it's becoming more and more obvious the more I dive into the topic and subject, that every single thing that I've done in my work for the past 20 years has been a form of self-therapy. Because if you go to the YouTube channel and you look at the introduction video for new visitors, it's still the what is language therapy, which was and of course, like none of the videos are planned, right? So it's all just spontaneous conversation related to whatever topic was of relevance at the time. And it's me talking about how talking helps,
Mhm.
and how it's the only obvious way to progress, because it's the best tool that we have for communicating. And if we don't communicate, we just end up lost in some kind of way, or we just internalize everything and don't learn to express it very well. And I've been thinking recently about a scene from the movie About a Boy.
Mhm.
Um, you know which film I'm talking about,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And
Hugh Grant.
yeah, and there's about
The boy with the weird eyebrows.
yep, yep, and there's about 10 Hugh Grant films that are absolutely perfect, and the rest are just like just a complete waste of time, as with most careers, I imagine. And there's a so it's about a kid who has problems with his single mother, and Hugh Grant, and they've all it's about everyone with issues, right?
Mhm.
Everyone's got their issues and their problems, and they're trying to deal with them.
Mhm.
And the kid has to go and do this performance at school, and the mother's saying, I think it's very important for my kid to do this performance because he needs to express himself, he needs to express who he is.
Mhm.
And the Hugh Grant character turns around and says, but you don't understand. He's not expressing who he is, he's expressing who you are.
Mhm.
At which point it clicks in the mother, oh my God,
Mhm.
this is not going to go well,
Mhm.
because I know that I'm not in the place where I need to be.
Mhm.
And my child is really not expressing who he is.
Mhm.
He's expressing who I am as a parent.
Mhm. And I'm fucked up.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And she realizes I'm fucked up. And she's trying to shield the kid from her being fucked up
Uh-huh.
and let him be himself, but she realizes she can't
Uh-huh.
at that point.
Well, yeah,
And it's
because you can't, because it's impossible, because it's not.
yeah, but the whole film is
Yeah.
about realizing those things, and it's a real powerful moment, because at that point she suddenly realizes, oh my God, he's going to mess things up completely, because
Mhm.
I messed things up completely,
Mhm.
and he's going to do the same thing that I did,
Mhm.
and I haven't been successful in letting him be his own person, not because I've done the wrong things, just because I've been who I am,
Mhm.
and that he has been observing and watching me, and is going to end up expressing who I am
Mhm.
if I'm not careful.
Mhm.
And that's what I see in a lot of parents, including myself and my relationship to the children, is that I see the children a lot of the time expressing who I am,
Mhm.
and that's hard to take, because the solution is not in correcting their behavior.
Mhm.
The solution is in realizing what I need to do to set a better example in certain situations.
Mhm. Will is just being so much like you. In every way. It's becoming more and more obvious, if you know what I mean. And it's funny. It's like the comment he said yesterday when we were watching the dog and cat video, and he said something like, "Oh, when is the dog going to rip the cat apart?" or something like that. Oh, something silly. And you started
Which,
laughing, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is like." I realized that he said that because because that would be like something that you would say or something that you would consider funny, and you did consider it funny, and it was like it was a complete G thing.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
Take a step back, right?
Uh-huh.
I
You wouldn't
I
say
agree.
it that way.
Wait. No,
Uh-huh.
I agree with your point, but I didn't think that was funny yesterday.
Why did you laugh? Like, why did you laugh if you didn't think it was funny?
I didn't laugh in the sense of haha, this is funny laugh.
Uh-huh.
I didn't.
So what did you
I
laugh
believe
at?
that I reacted and said that's not a good idea. I didn't laugh. No, I'm not quite sure how you interpreted it, but I'm highly aware of that conversation, and I'm highly aware that I didn't laugh as if that was funny, because I know it was not funny, and I knew at the time that it was not funny. So I didn't respond in that way to that point, and I was very conscious of it at the time. Very conscious of it. I remember it very clearly in my head.
I don't know. Well, I don't know what was in your head, but from my point,
I think if you go back and look
he
at
said
it,
it, and you laughed, and
no,
you
I
were
didn't.
Like,
See,
that's funny.
I have to push back against that. Did I laugh?
Uh-huh.
I did that kind of, yeah, that's not very funny kind of response. That was my laugh. That was, if you want to call that a laugh, then fair enough, but it's not a laugh in my book. But I get the fact that people's definitions are different.
I don't know, because
I was not laughing at that. That was not funny.
Me.
Why would I laugh at something that's not funny?
I don't know.
So I didn't. Okay. I wouldn't.
That's why I commented when you did laugh in some way or another, because that's why I commented. Oh, you find that appeals to your sense of humor, doesn't it?
Yeah, I remember you said that, and I remember thinking that's weird, because I've definitely reacted in a way which is the opposite to that. I remember that at the time.
Well, it didn't
I think
look
that
like
you
that.
misinterpreted.
You think I misinterpreted your laugh?
The response, yes. I think you completely misinterpreted the response, because it was the first time that I'd heard Will say something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought it was entirely inappropriate and wrong. Entirely. And I did not support it and did not want to support it at the time. I was very conscious of it.
Yeah?
Yes.
Because that's not what it sounded from, or what it looked like from my perspective.
Yeah, I get it, and I remember your comment, and I remember thinking, you haven't understood at all.
Yeah.
What's going on? I remember.
The question is, if I hadn't understood, had Will understood?
I don't know. I can't answer. I can't answer for that. But you completely misinterpreted the situation, and I remember thinking that at the time, and I remember letting it go and saying, "There's no point having this conversation."
Anyway, that was just okay. Well, obviously that was a wrong example then, but I can see him doing things and saying things that, I can tell that, and then it's completely it's completely natural that a boy is gonna want to copy his father. I mean, that's like that's just the way that's the way humanity has been running for millions of years, right?
Okay, so what do I do, or what does he do that you think are sort of direct copies from me? And now, like let's just assume that a lot of it's going to be automatic anyway. And I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm just saying that kids copy their parents. Okay, but
it's little things. It's little things. It's really hard to pinpoint something in particular as an example. Yeah. It's like, this is going to be a removed example because this happened a year ago, okay? But it's something that stuck in my mind, which is when we saw a woman park into a lamppost in the center of the town when I was out with the kids.
When she drove into the lamppost.
She drove into the
That was
lamppost.
in winter. I remember that. I think it was in winter.
You weren't there.
What?
You weren't there.
Oh, I wasn't there.
No.
Because I've seen a woman drive into a lamppost as well when Will was there. It must be a common thing.
Maybe. No, this was at some other point in time. I remember I was walking with the kids in the center of the town and we were talking
Wasn't
after
it just
the
outside
fact.
the co-op shop, that co-op Nota place?
Were you there back then?
And you see, I think I was there. I think that I was there.
Maybe.
Because I think it happened right there.
Maybe.
And I think I was there.
It did happen right there.
You see how would I know that?
The woman she just drove into the lamp.
How would
Okay,
I know
well
exactly where it happened?
Then you must have been there. But the conversation I had later, you weren't there because I remember it very distinctly. That I was walking down the center in the square, and I was talking to the kids, and we must have been mentioning that incident and laughing about it or something. And Will said something like, she couldn't drive very well because she was a woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I had to stop and explain to him that, that he sometimes says it as a joke in the car, but it's not true that just because you're a woman, it means that you won't be able to drive very well, and that there's a lot of women drivers that are very good and very responsible drivers, yada, 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 yada. And that's just one example in which he did that, right? He expressed whatever he said, whatever he felt maybe that Daddy would say, or he said something that stuck with him because you made jokes about it. I don't know, but that was an interesting example. That's the only thing that I can think of right now. But it's not big things like that. It's little things every day that it's the way he moves and the way he talks, the way he reacts sometimes to things. I don't know. I can try and observe or be more aware and maybe point it out to you. When he's got a dad moment.
He definitely struggles to control his emotions at various times.
Yes. And he's got the panic mode thing. It's like you panic sometimes. He panics sometimes. I don't panic.
Do I panic?
Yes.
Okay. When was the last time I panicked?
Again, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but you do panic. In
oh yeah, I'm not saying I don't panic.
Like
I just want to
something
reflect
happens
on something that happened. Like when would be an example of me panicking recently?
It's just the daily little things, like something spills, something spills, for example. Yeah, something spills, and you start going, oh my god, quickly, there's a huge spill all over the table, da, 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 da. And when I run back with 3 cloths and ready to deal with this huge spill all over the table and all over the floor that you just described in a very panicky way, I find out that there's a little bit of milk spilled on the table, and for example, yeah, that type of panicking, or and you're like hurry up, and I just walk kind of slowly because I know that there's a spill, I will wipe it up. What the fuck should I have to hurry up for? I mean, it's still gonna be there by the time I get there, right?
Yeah, it might be slightly worse.
Or when your computer wouldn't turn on in the Windows mode and you didn't know what was happening, right? And you were like, oh my gosh, my computer is completely fucked up. And Will fixed it just by turning on the monitor. No, I'm not saying that you always panic, but sometimes.
Oh no, we've had that conversation before.
Sometimes
That's a misrepresentation. It's a misrepresentation that the will fixed it, because it was dependent upon something
Oh, he didn't
that
fix it because it
somebody
wasn't
else.
broken.
He realized where the problem
Yes.
was.
Uh-huh.
Somehow the settings got altered
Mhm.
in the computer, and I wasn't aware
Mhm.
of it, and I missed what the problem was. And so it's not that he was able to solve it through thinking through a series of processes. It was that there was a large element of luck involved in the monitor settings being in a certain way when he turned it on, and it was all, it was all good at the end of the day, but it was very interesting. What happened? It's a boring technical point, but what happened was that the computer had switched which monitor was which screen was the main screen and which screen was the secondary screen, and it did that all by itself. And which anyone who's got a computer will tell you that doesn't happen, right? It's like, it can't happen all by itself. It has to be instructed by someone to do that. Well, it did happen by itself. It switched from the computer being the main monitor to the monitor being the main monitor.
If you go back to the point of Will not being able to control his emotions very well, I kind of think that it's not such a bad thing. If you know what I think, if you know what I mean, because first of all, he's a kid. Second of all, he should be able to express his emotions, right? Because men suppressing their emotions is where lots and lots of shit originates when it comes to men being able to deal with their emotions. It's not just men, but I mean, men and women are both taught to suppress their emotions,
Welcome to
but
the mask of
in
masculinity.
different ways, right? For a boy, it is more acceptable to express anger than it is any other emotion, and therefore men often mask without realizing it. If you're not aware what's happening in your body, men can think that they're angry, or can translate other feelings into anger, because they have been taught when children that's the only acceptable emotions, in subtle ways, obviously not told directly, right? But in subtle ways, like, oh, don't cry, don't be sad, don't be weak, don't be this, don't be that. But it's alright when you're angry, right? And girls, on the other hand, it is more acceptable for girls to be sad, to be weak, to cry about being hurt or whatever, right? And it is less accepted to be angry, to express yourself, right? It's just a long millions of years long history of human species, basically. But girls are expected to be polite and kind at all times and giving, right?
Sugar and spice and all things nice.
Yeah, exactly. In general, yeah. So when girls get angry and want to beat somebody up or whatever, they'll be told, little girls shouldn't fight, blah blah blah. There was a song for kids when I was a kid, which was entitled "Dama sa nema bić," right? Which means a lady shouldn't fight.
Well, that's just
for
stupid,
example.
isn't it?
And it's just the underlying messages that run in the society.
Yeah, but
I'm not saying they're unnatural, yeah. I mean, I understand them in the grand scheme of things, where men needed their aggression to feed the family, and women needed their nurturing side to keep the kids alive, right?
yeah, well,
But we've evolved, and some things are not evolving as fast as maybe they should be.
Look, yeah, like I'm all for things being equal, and I very much enjoy those Disney films where the female lead role is strongly played and portrayed, right? But I hate them for the fact that the male lead role is weak, portrayed as weak. And I think that that's completely unfair.
How do you define weak? In what way is a male? Give me an example.
Submissive.
Submissive is
not
weak.
having vision and direction and determination, and not being an assertive role model in the sense of problems, being a follower, not a leader.
But that just comes from the situation, no?
I think that it's deeper than that. I think that,
Because
I like, look, let's
Give
take
me
an
an
example.
example.
Okay, look, I like
Okay.
the way in Frozen that the female leads are portrayed as, adventurous and strong, or what's the other one? It's like Mulan is another one, and Moana, and I like those. I like those ideals. I think they're very nice. And yet, the men are portrayed in those films as very weak characters.
Well, for
And I
example,
think that,
how can you explain to me how they're portrayed as weak characters?
well, if you take all of those definitions that I gave you of the weak characteristics that I don't like, all of those.
That they don't have vision. It was like the guy who's got his own ice business doesn't have vision. He runs his own bloody business.
I
Right.
think it's a very, what I would call, wishy-washy situation where he's got his own business, but he doesn't have any direction with it, and he's sort of waiting for someone else to come along and
No, I think it's
help
situational.
him out.
No, I don't think so. I think he was doing just fine when he was running his own business, in his own business. The only thing that the main character brought as a give was the relationship, that he was able to form a relationship with a woman, which is not, there's nothing wrong with that. But you taking a situation.
What's wrong with a relationship with a reindeer?
Shut up. It was a situation. You have to think about it not as a general, like in general, but you look at it in the situation. It was in a situation where he gave support to the female main character when she needed the support, and he understood that there were things that she needed to sort out for herself, and that he had to step back in that situation, and there's nothing weak about that.
No, I get that point.
Because a
I
male,
get that point.
you shouldn't be the leader all the time. You have to be able to step back and let other people lead for a while, or maybe do what they need to do without you telling them what they need to do, or without you leading them where you think that they should be.
Well, it's a contradictory form of leadership, which is servant leadership. Yeah.
So I don't observe that character as weak at all. I observe that character as strong.
Okay, what about the other male characters in that cartoon? Let's just say that you're right about that.
I think there was
okay?
only one, really.
Yeah, but all the government ministers are portrayed as weak characters, and the other males are.
Well, they're just ministers, right? I mean, obviously they're not the leaders of the country, because the country has a queen. Yeah. So they are just
Look,
as
these people are supposed to be. Look, if you go back in history, right? No, this is a point that I don't like. That all of those characters are portrayed as weak. All of them. And if you go back in history and you go back to, say, a period of time when that was like theoretically set, a person in that kind of position couldn't have been weak.
Well,
They would
yes,
have
but
had
they
to have
were
been
not the
strong.
main characters, and they try to simplify it for the kids, so they're not going to develop the ministers' characters because they're not the main characters. They're already developing 4 characters in the movie, yeah,
Mhm.
which are the main characters, and you can't. That it wouldn't obviously wouldn't serve any purpose in the story, so you only do what serves a purpose in the story. And the story was obviously made as a girl empowerment type thing story, yeah. So
Girl power.
it wouldn't serve a purpose. And I don't think, I really don't think it's as black black and white, because each character grew in a certain way. I don't see what was his name, Christoph, as a weak character. I see him as a strong character because of what I said. Because first of all, he ran his own business. Second of all, he was very emotionally mature. He was more emotionally mature than the girls, for example, right? It's like when the lead adventurous, courageous, brave female character was talking about relationships. She was completely, in the nappies, as I would say. She was like, she had no idea what she was talking about, right? When he was saying, when they had the conversation in the sleigh, it was like, you wanted to marry somebody that you've just met. Like, are you crazy, right? That's, for example, a situation where he was a stronger character than she was, because she had no bloody idea. But so he was very high. He had a very high emotional IQ. Yeah. And he knew how he felt, and he knew what he wanted from the relationship. He showed respect to her in the relationship, where he wasn't trying to push hard or whatever, because he respected the fact that even though it was a bit silly, he thought it was a bit silly, he still respected her decision to be engaged to somebody else. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see anything weak about that character. And he rushed in to save the day in the end. Yeah. And even though he was going into danger, he still turned around and went back to try and help. Right? So I didn't think it was a weak character. And the other male character was obviously a baddie, so there you go. I thought it was a great story I think it was a great story, just showing you how having an unresolved business is dangerous for you.
Yeah, it could be read like that. It definitely could be read like that.
But you see, maybe, just maybe, you perceiving the character in that story or any other story as weak might be a part of the programming of what men are taught to be weaknesses, which are actually not weaknesses.
Yes, that's an emotionally intelligent point. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. To not repress that side of the character. Yet, I still think there are question marks about the way that the different characters are portrayed. But then, again, you need elements of I don't know, the conflict to sharpen the story against. So you're going to create unnatural situations.
Well, that's the real art in writing and in story making or storytelling, is to find natural elements to sharpen the story against, natural and believable situations to to make your point, I think.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of great crafting that goes into storytelling, and I think that's part of what business is as well. business is very much telling a story to sell the product.
Yeah, but I was thinking about it the other way around. I was thinking about that, storytelling is just really complex marketing.
Well, yeah, you've that's how people buy into the products. In the past it was done through the not confrontation, the rivalry, right? It was done through rivalry in the past, like Coke versus Pepsi,
Mhm.
or Blur versus Oasis, or Adidas versus Nike, or whatever, right? So that's how the stories would attempt to portray one side as good and the other side as bad, and have them playing against each other, Manchester United versus Liverpool or whatever. And so there were always these two sides. I mean, that's how
Snow White against the Evil Queen.
Yeah. I mean, that was in the political process. It was called the Hegelian dialect, and
America against Russia.
well, we talked about Labour against Conservative,
America against
Democrat
everybody.
against Republican.
Yeah.
As our online friend Stephen wrote the other day, he was talking about the American military, and he was saying when you see yourself as a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Oh yeah.
And that's very much
That's a good metaphor.
a big part of the problem there. Definitely. But back to the kids, it's always a problem trying to let them develop in a way that allows them to be themselves, because everything that you do is creating a mold for everything that they become.
Yeah.
And whether you're hands-on and you pay attention to every detail, and you ensure that everything is right and correct, and all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and everything is done correctly, or whether you're hands off and I'll let them decide for themselves and not give them too much direction. It either way has massive potential problems that could evolve from just trying to do the right thing. So, I mean, I guess that would be filed under unintended consequences. It's like, I didn't mean for that to happen, but but that's
I think all parenthood is like that, all parenting is like that, because everybody does what they truly believe is the best thing to do in parenting. Well, everybody, I'm not obviously not talking about extreme situations of drug addicts or whatever. I'm just talking about your average person. I think that in parenting, everybody does what they truly believe is the best thing to do, whether they have researched it or whether they have just had it passed on to them from their parents. Doesn't matter, but everybody does what they think works to create a successful and well-rounded individual. And then that's where the conflict comes from, isn't it? Because then the kid grows up and the kid goes like, oh my god, my parents fucked up all these things, and then the kid is angry at the parents, and the parents are like, well, what are you angry at me for? I mean, I've done everything I could do, right? I never meant for this to happen. If that's what you have a problem with. But most children don't even tell their parents what they have problems with, because they realize how stressful, painful that would be for the parents to realize. Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, it's a bit crazy, and I'm still waiting to see where the reconciliation comes in. Like, what do you have to learn, or how in what way do you have to mature to be able to reconcile that conflict within yourself in your own brain, right? Because it's something for you to work out. Yeah, it's for you to progress in a certain way or in a certain direction to be able to make sense of it all, and to be able to say, okay, I understand this, you know. Because I don't think that's the final destination. I don't think that the stage where you realize everything that's gone wrong and you understand why everything happened and why your parents did what they did, but you still think it's wrong and you can't forgive them. I don't think that's the final state of things. I think it has to progress into something more whole, you know. And
Well,
it's just
it's
curious
hard.
to see
It's
what
hard
it
for
is.
children to hold their parents accountable.
What do you mean?
Well,
Oh, you mean
it,
for grown children?
yeah, for children of all ages, perhaps. But it's really hard because you're in a lower position in terms of the power dynamic, and there's a need for, I think, a lot of parents to take a step back and learn from their kids as much as they're trying to teach their kids.
You can't expect children to hold their parents accountable, especially not young children. Maybe when they're becoming teenagers and they start realizing what's happening. But when kids are not teenagers, when they're just little children, they're not going to, because that's their reality. They don't understand that something is wrong, or they understand something is wrong, but they don't know that it's not normal, or they don't know that there might be a situation in which it's not wrong, or it's even if I think that even if kids see that, my family's like that and it's not right and I wish it was like the other family, still it's their reality and it's their world, and it's gonna take a while for the children to start realizing that their parents should be held accountable for their mistakes or something. And then should they? If you think about it, the parents wouldn't have made the mistakes if there weren't probably even bigger mistakes made in their childhood, so it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, that's a question of history and how much people can learn from what has happened and what has come before. And this, along with being the age of information, it's also the age of learning as well, because information should be the transfer of what we know.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah, you should. I don't know. It's obviously not a good idea to make victims out of parents, right? If they fuck something up, because they're adults and they're responsible for not fucking it up. Yeah, they've got agency, and therefore, if they do have problems, they're responsible for sorting them out, not to transfer them onto their kids. But on the other hand, you have to take into account the spread of information that they didn't have. They didn't have half of the access to information that we have now. Yeah. If they didn't study psychology at school, they were unlikely to study it, in any other setting.
Oh yeah, well it can't be studied in school because because of those crazy principles. Like I was thinking the other day of how I've seen in a couple of schools that I've been in recently the democracy now and democracy matters and your voice, blah blah blah, right? And they're teaching this to children in schools where you get the contradiction, right?
Which is like
Where they don't have a choice.
the absolute monarchy.
Well, yeah, and you're teaching you have a choice to kids who don't have a choice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You have a voice, but you don't have a voice
That's
because you
just
have to
dangerous.
do everything we say.
Yeah,
And
that's just dangerous.
And the other thing is, how can students learn really and truly anything from a person who has no control over what they do?
Hmm.
Well, that doesn't make much sense either. It's like, well, and the argument is that, well, you have to be trained in a certain way in order to be able to manage the pupils within that kind of environment. But I think that it's not unnecessary, but it also misses the point at the same time, because there's a natural way that things go. There's a natural order to things. I mean, you get a group of boys and you throw a ball into the middle of them, and they'll end up playing a game. They'll make up a game. They'll play football or dodgeball or rugby or whatever, right? They'll end up making up a game and playing it because that's the natural way of things. And school tends to be inflexible in those areas, and it's a system. So yeah, I get it. You know, it's the headmaster's nightmare of anarchy that any kid could walk into any class and say anything to anybody.
Which is exactly how the school works in Bystrica, where Will has been registered for homeschooling.
Yeah, but
And
that's
it's an amazing system.
well, it's access to the information that's important. It's the principle. Look, if there wasn't a natural order to things, libraries wouldn't exist. Because like nobody forces someone to go to the library and get a book, right? They go to the library because that's where the resources are to get the books to learn the information. You know, nobody, and this is the, you know, back to our debate yesterday about business. You know, it's the beauty of the business world is when nobody is forced to buy anyone else's product. That's the beauty of business. When you're not forced to go into a shop and purchase something, because then the market gets to dictate what succeeds and what fails, and that's the natural flow and order of things. When you start to sustain culture, business, market, and society by sponsoring it to exist, then you interrupt what is the natural process of self-destruction that occurs. It's basically like injecting a tree with some special chemical so that the leaves don't die in autumn as it goes into winter. It's like, oh, it's, you know, the leaves are dying, it's terrible, we have to help them and support them. No, they're meant to die. The leaves are meant to die. Bad things are meant to fail. They're not, and there is this right kind of support where you want to encourage people to do well, right? But it ends there. It absolutely ends there, because you must have a natural flow and a natural order of things which allows elements to die, because if you don't, the result is social corporate fascism, because the corporate body never dies, and you need death in order to clear the way for the new shit, the new technology, the new people, the new way, the new cultures, the new ideas. And yes, there's an argument that there's nothing new under the sun, but I still think that we're evolving in some kind of way that, you know, as Steve Jobs said in his classic speech, that death is the greatest invention of life, because it puts everything into perspective. Without it, nothing means anything at all. And when you start to support cultures and organizations and businesses that are unable to support themselves, it's nice. And there are areas of society where people are disadvantaged or disabled, and you want to be able to support them so that they get the best opportunities in life. Absolutely, there you do. But in the market, you never want to do that, because then everything stops. It begins a gradual process of slowdown where the end point is stop and nothing can move. And now you're going to give me the reason why that's wrong.
No, I've absolutely nothing to add to that.
That's the first time ever.
Yeah, I know.
That's the first.
I know. I've completely lost any thread that there was before we started talking about business. Because when you start talking about business, it's your job, right? You just kind of like take off.
Well, I wish other people would see it that way, but anyway, they will eventually. Eventually, it is all going to it's all going to come together in a most bizarre way.
Do you know what's happening today? Today's a very special day.
Wait a minute. It's according to my watch, it's 1 o'clock in the morning in November.
I feel like that.
That's wait. That's not right. Wait a minute. I'll eventually get it right. Oh,
I believe your watch.
According to my watch, it's now 8 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, the 9th of December 2018, which is going to be weird for anyone listening to this in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But there you go. Well, especially rewind.
Special day today.
Today's what's happening? What? Why? Fasting? No, it's not because we're fasting. It's not somebody's birthday.
I don't have to do anything. Ha ha ha!
You don't have to do anything?
No.
What do you mean you don't have to do anything?
It means work-wise. I don't have to do anything work-wise. I've got a free day off work.
A free day?
Off work.
A free day?
Would you believe it? I haven't had that for weeks.
A free day?
Yeah. I've had all my weekends not free in the past few weeks because I had to work on other projects. I've got a free day today.
I have an important meeting tomorrow morning and I have to prepare for it today.
Well, I have to do other shit today. I have to fill in things. Filling government documents.
Yeah, that's something else that I have to do as well soon. I have to work on the transfer of a lot of things.
I also have to write, and you have to give me a invoice to write.
What?
Oh, it's complex. I'll explain later.
Good, because I didn't understand any of that.
It's complex.
But
yeah, I'm still registered in your business as a translator, no?
I haven't unregistered you.
Mm-hmm. So I'm still registered in your business as a translator because I have to invoice something to a friend, and she's got a problem with for her. Apparently, her accountant has a problem with me invoicing things from abroad, so I'm gonna need to do that.
Oh, well,
through
but
your
the accountant's job is to make sure that that's not a problem.
I know the accountant's obviously an idiot, but there you go. She keeps going, but Janka, but I would have to be registered for the VAT to be able to invoice that to you. And I said, no, darling, that works the other way around. If you've got foreign clients and they want to invoice you, no. Oh, wait. She might actually be right.
What?
No. No, she's not. It's the other way around. I'm right.
What?
I'm right. Yeah.
What?
If she worked for foreign clients, then she would have to have a DPH, a VAT number. She'd have to be registered for VAT. But if foreign clients work for her,
Mhm.
She doesn't have to. So, it's bullshit. Obviously, the accountant has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, I need to sit down with you and go through the steps of processes of transferring the business from one country to another. Am I going to
It's
get?
idiot-proof.
That's. It's not G-proof though.
It's idiot-proof, but it's very complex. It's
Yeah.
going to require my mother walking around offices for you, and filling stuff in and stuff.
It's very generous of her to offer to do that, which she hasn't done. But it's very generous of her.
I've offered her to do that.
That's nice. That's nice. That's good.
I'm offering my mother to you to do that. But you're gonna have to give her a full power of attorney for that, I think.
Oh.
Which you're gonna have to send through mail.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to get round to doing all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or we could go visit. And you could do that in person. Sure, you would love to.
That's the expensive way of doing it.
Yeah.
In more ways
I'm
than
gonna
one.
have to go and visit at some point in March. You know that, right? You've got that on your radar, right?
Remind me why?
Because my sister's wedding.
Your sister's wedding was supposed to be last week.
No, it wasn't. It's supposed to be next weekend in South Africa, and then it's going to happen again in March in Slovakia.
Have you told me that before? Because I honestly don't
Yes.
remember you telling me that before.
Yes,
It's going
I've
to be
told
in
you that
March.
before, and you said, "Oh, don't go to South Africa. We can all go to Slovakia."
Oh no! Wait!
and it's happening in Slovakia."
No! You're not getting away with that one. No!
Excuse
no.
me?
You're not getting away with that. Okay, because at that point in time,
Uh-huh.
it wasn't definitely set. Okay. Now
The date
you're telling
wasn't
me.
definite.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There
Mhm.
was still a question about the date. Okay. So now you're telling me the date is definitely set.
It's gonna be in March. I don't have the exact day, but it's gonna be in March.
In March.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine.
Yeah.
Just so that because I don't like March is sort of a period of
Yeah,
30
no.
days. You know, it's
I know.
It- organization.
I'm just telling
No.
you that I don't have the exact information, but I'm just telling you, keep
no,
it in the back of
I
your
said
mind.
I said that we should all go to Slovakia for that, and I mean that we should all go definitely.
I don't know if we're gonna have money for all of us to go.
If we don't have money for all of us to go, then you will have to go by yourself.
Uh-huh.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna have to work that out somehow. Right. I'll deal with that after Christmas. It is not now the time to deal with that. Anyway,
It's a plan for the new year.
yeah, that was off topic. Okay. Yeah, that's you need to do that business thing.
So she's getting married next week in South Africa,
Mhm.
and she's getting married in March in Slovakia.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes some kind of sense.
She'll get to do it twice without having to get a divorce.
Hurrah!
That cool.
It's bizarre. It's more
Yeah.
bizarre than cool. So, which members of the Slovak family are actually going to the wedding
Oh,
in South
I
Africa?
believe all of them. Well, my mother's gonna be there, obviously. My father's gonna be there, obviously, and their respective spouses are gonna be there, obviously.
Wow.
And
So everyone's going to South Africa next week.
oh
Wow.
no, you're asking me about South Africa.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm asking
sorry.
you about
No,
South
no,
Africa.
nobody's going to South Africa.
So-
Nobody's going to South Africa because I was the only person who was willing to go through the ordeal of having to get the visa to go to South Africa, but I wasn't allowed to.
So how does your? I mean, I kind of said that this. I kind of said this at the time, right?
Mhm.
That I thought it was a bit mental. Your sister choosing South Africa to get married in when knowing she must have known that it would be difficult for any of her family members to get
Yes,
to her
but
wedding.
that's why she's choosing to do it again in Slovakia, because if you think about it, all of her spouse's family would find it extremely difficult to go to Slovakia to a wedding, right? I mean, it works both ways.
So how does it work legally, getting married twice?
Uh,
Can you do
the
that?
first marriage is the legally binding marriage. Is when all the paperwork gets signed. It's when all the passports get changed and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
And the second marriage, I think it's only.
So she's getting a South African passport.
Well, she will be eventually
Okay.
when she asks for it, I suppose. And the second marriage is just what's the word? Is just like when you're getting married, yeah, you've got like a Christian wedding, yeah,
Mhm.
but that's not the legal thing. You still have to go to the office and sign the papers, yeah,
Yeah, because that's a government thing.
yeah. So the Christian thing is not really the legal thing. The Christian thing is just the what's the word?
Ceremony.
Ceremony, yes, exactly. So she's only going to have a ceremony in Slovakia as a celebration, as a way to spend time and celebrate the special moment with the people in Slovakia, but it's not actually the real legal thing. She'll already be legally married when she comes to celebrate it in Slovakia.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's only really about celebrating it with your people, mainly, which I understand. And it gives the chance to all of her side of the family to be there, because none of them could make it. Because, I think that if she didn't have that option there, if she didn't tell them there was going to be an option, they would go and make the effort to go to South Africa, more likely. But my father's got huge issues with that. He said before, when she said, "Oh, come and visit me in South Africa," he just said, "Oh, well, that's highly unlikely," because he really hates traveling, and that would be very long traveling. He will drive anywhere he can drive to. He will drive. He hates going by plane anywhere, and he also is quite racist, I think. And he's got huge prejudice against Africa. He imagines it's full of criminals that you're gonna get stabbed on each corner and whatever. It's just he doesn't want to go there. So she knew that would be a big issue. I know that my mother would go because she's an adventurer, but given the choice, my mother decided not to go through having to get the visa in Vienna, because it's really a difficult process. I was willing to do that. I was willing to take a bus to bloody Edinburgh to apply for the visa, but then I was told, I checked it with the embassy, and the embassy told me that I would have to be resident in UK for 6 months before I can ask for a visa with the Edinburgh South African embassy, because I wasn't, I would have had to go to Vienna to apply for the visa, and you have to do that in person, and there's no way I could have done that.
It's a long way to walk.
It's a very long way to take a bike to. Yeah, especially over the channel.
Middle of nowhere, if you ask me. Yeah.
So yeah, that didn't happen. It's a shame because, and of course my brother can't be bothered. He's like, whatever. He's just had a baby. I mean, he's not going to go to South Africa when he's just had a baby. He's on a paternal leave, by the way. I found that quite funny.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing home? Because I was calling him the other day. We were talking on the phone, and I said, what are you doing home? How come you're not at work? And he's like, well, I've got 5 weeks of paternal leave.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
That's probably isn't that more than what the women get?
No.
What the women get?
No. Well, I don't know what they get in Spain actually, but it's not more.
Huh?
And he said,
I thought the women only got like I don't know, a very short period of time. Like
in Slovakia they get
three months.
in Slovakia they get, I think, something like 3 months. Yeah, somewhere around there, maybe 10 or 12 weeks, but that's included the 2 weeks before birth. Not weeks, sorry, months. You get about a month and a half before birth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I thought like Spain was like 10 weeks and Slovakia
then you
was
get
like 10
like 2 months after birth.
There's a big difference there. Huh?
Well, no, there's... Wait, I'm messing this up completely. In Slovakia, you get 6 months after birth and 2 months before birth.
Yeah, that's what I was.
So it's like
sort of
8
thinking.
months altogether. That's the maternal leave, and then you can decide to stay at home with the child after that, but you're not getting paid for it. And in Spain, I don't know, but my brother said that he's got 5 weeks to... He said his wife has a maternal leave to take care of the baby, and he's got the paternal leave to take care of the mother.
Oh, that must work fucking epically for economics. I mean, it's back to business again, right? Yeah. As an employer of a company, I want the company to grow and I want my employees to be happy. But having to cover someone's absence for that period of time and contribute.
But that's human. That's
Whoa. If I started using that argument all over the place, they would fall apart instantly.
It's natural.
So it doesn't. Whoa, it's not natural to pay someone for not working. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the other activity is not important, right? I'm saying that you pay someone to do a job. That's why you employ someone. You employ someone to do a job, not to not do the job.
Yes, but if you want that someone to come back to your company...
That's not that's not an argument. That's like saying, well, I don't. It's like saying, well, don't shoot your employees. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Look, when you employ someone, you don't just pay them to do a job. You take responsibility for them and for their family. And that's the bottom line. You're taking more responsibility for that person to a certain degree. And as long as that person doesn't breach the contract...
I don't agree with that statement entirely. I think a percentage of it is true, but not in its entirety. You don't take responsibility for everything in their life.
Partially. Not, of course not.
You employ them to do. Look, if you employ a computer, if you that's an exaggeration. It was wrong. I'm sorry about that. But okay, let's say you employ someone to do, I don't know, coding for your application software, right? You're not taking responsibility for their family.
Are you talking about employing, or are you talking about a short-term contract? We're talking about employing.
Let's say you need someone to do it permanently.
Yeah? Yes.
You're employing them because of the skill set that they have. That nothing to do with their family at all.
Well, in fact, I beg to differ, because when you employ somebody, you become their entire means for survival at that point in time. Yeah? You are the sole provider.
I've got an argument against that. Sorry.
When you employ someone for your company and you want them to work exclusively for your company, then you are the sole provider of their money. Right? That's the truth. And as such, and you have a contract, and the contract says, okay, unless this person breaches this contract, unless they do something bad or something they shouldn't have done, then I'm going to keep on paying for whatever they're doing for me, and I'm going to keep on providing the work for them, and I'm going to give, keep on giving them money so that they can live, so that they can survive, so that they can feed their family.
No. It's not what the company is doing. No, it's what some people like to think that they're doing, and that's nice. It's also nannying people.
No, I understand that the main company's main goal is not to take care of people. The company's main goal is to create the product that they're creating and to use human resources to create that product. But at the same time, because of the way that they are using these human resources, they have the moral responsibility for them. If they hired somebody who works for themselves, right? Like a business person, like me, I'm a self-employed person, yeah? If somebody hires me to do a job, I still have the freedom and the time to get work elsewhere, to look for other clients. And I'm not expected by my clients to exclusively give all my time and energy to their project. But you are expected to do that when somebody employs you as an employee. You are expected to give 100% of your working energy, of your brain, to that company that employs you, because you work for them, right? So, and that in itself gives you the responsibility partially for, unless this person breaches the contract, for them, because you're the sole provider for them. I think morally, I'm not talking legally, I'm talking morally, you become responsible. Whether you like it or not, you do.
What was the original point? I've forgotten the original point.
The original point is that I can't remember. when you employ somebody, the paternal leave, that was the original point. So I think that it's a part of the employer's responsibility.
Okay.
For their
responsibility is a nice word, but
employees.
Okay. Take a step back. Responsibility is a nice word. Okay, like beautiful is a nice word. Responsibility is a nice word, right? In what way is it economical for a company to employ somebody for a period of time, let's say 8 months, right, who is not working? Explain that from an economic perspective.
How can they not employ somebody like that? Everybody, if they employ a person, they would have to choose to employ an old person or somebody who never wants to have children.
No,
right?
Stop. No, wait. Please explain this to me in numbers, okay? Economics. The question was about economics, right? It wasn't about
when you
methods.
Employ a young person.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, how economically is it financially viable to employ someone, to pay someone to not work for you for 8 months?
Because when you offer that, then you will have good quality people coming to work for your company. If you're a company that supports their employees, yes, in this manner, then you will have happy employees. When you have happy employees, it means people who are good and who offer good quality work and services will choose your company to work for. Yeah? Whereas, if you do not offer this, but other company does, then everybody who's got a grain of brain in their head will go to the company that offers more benefits to the employees rather than to the other company that just wants them to slave all the time, and when they have children decides to kick them out because they decided to have children.
Okay, that's a human resources issue. I get that.
So I believe that economically,
economics are not beliefs, they're
listen
facts.
to me,
Economics
shut
are
up.
not beliefs, they're
Economically,
facts.
it is more viable for the company to support their employees so that the employees so that they have more qualified staff, happier staff, so that they perform better, so that in the long run, the company has better results because the people who run the company or the machinery, the little bits and pieces, the little cogs are all working. They're all working. They're not unhappy. They don't revolt. They don't go on strikes.
Okay. Let's look at it in a microcosm. Okay. All right. Let's say company Z employs person Y to do a job. And let's say that after a year or 2 years of work for the company, person Y goes on maternity leave for 8 months. Let's say the company then has to cover that person's work. So they have to find another person and pay this other person to do the work that they already paid the first person to do.
They don't pay the first person the full wage.
But okay, that's gonna get into another argument, which is also negative. But I don't want to go there. But I know where that's going, because that's gonna get into where does the money come from? And
from the profits of the company.
Yeah, so you're still paying for it.
You're
still paying for it.
No, you're not paying.
Money doesn't come out of nowhere.
Can you listen to me?
It doesn't come out of nothing.
The company is not paying the person that's on the maternity leave for work. They're paying a percentage of their original wages to keep them in the company.
And where does that person's other income come from?
What other income? Person doesn't have any other income.
There's no other benefits afforded to a person in that situation. They only get what percentage is it that they get?
I'm not sure. Maybe 50%. I don't know.
50% is a pretty large percentage to not go to work.
That's a really rough guess, though. I don't know if it's that much.
Okay. Let me explain basic economics to you, right? Because I don't think you understand how the company is going to be screwed by this whole situation, right? It's screwball economics. It can't possibly it's a nice idea, but it can't work economically in the long term because the numbers just don't add up. The numbers just don't add up. It's not possible.
But the company doesn't have any other choice.
Yeah, this is what destroys a lot of companies. And people think it's a good thing, but it actually destroys the company.
Or would you rather destroy families? They cannot afford to have children? Because they lose their jobs and they have no money?
Yeah, I think that's a false question. I think there's other ways to deal with that, but we can't deal with that in this
conversation. What other ways are there?
And that's a different topic of conversation. Okay, and that don't want to talk about that because that's going to take you. There are many other ways to deal with it, right? But
no.
There are many other ways to deal with it. Can we get back to making? Can I get back to making my argument, please? Because you're not going to allow me to make my argument, right? My argument is the numbers don't add up, okay? You're saying that, basically what you're saying is 2 + 1 = 4. Okay, that's basically what you're saying, okay?
No,
the numbers don't add up. You understand the economics. The numbers don't add up.
I understand the economics.
It doesn't
you just
work.
have to take the money off of the profit of the company. Well, then the company's not going to make 10,000 in the year, but it's going to make 8,000 in the year.
Why are you punishing a company for being successful?
I'm not punishing
That's what it is. You're taking away. It doesn't belong. It doesn't belong to the person who's taking it. No, it doesn't. It's like saying the person in the house over there. Their money belongs to other people.
It's the company's moral duty to support the people that they're keeping on the back burner.
I'm not arguing about morals here. It's not a moral argument. It's not a moral argument. It's a numbers argument. You understand the numbers?
I do understand
the numbers. Don't add up. You can't do it. That's why you keep breaking into my argument and not letting me finish. Because if you don't have the numbers adding up, you don't have anything.
Gee, but if you are a good company, and if you're run by a person who has half a brain, then you're already counting on that.
Wait.
You're already counting on that, and you are adjusting everything, including the prices of your product or services, with that in the back of your head. Because
And
you're already
that's
counting on that fact. Okay?
Absolutely intelligent people have to figure that in. That does not A, make it any easier, or B, change the economics. And what I'm talking about is the economics. I'm not talking about people factoring in things and
But
not
that's the
factoring
way
in things. I'm talking
things
about
are. There is
economics.
no alternative.
And that's why there are so many economic problems. There are so many economic problems because people, A, can't see the alternatives, and B, believe that other people's stuff belongs to them, which is the basis of
so there's
socialism.
a problem in economics because mothers get money during the maternity leave.
It doesn't add up. Yes,
Fathers get money
absolutely.
during the
Yes,
maternity
it doesn't
leave.
It doesn't add up. Basic numbers. It doesn't add up economically.
It's ridiculous. It does.
It's a fact.
It does.
Do you
It
understand
just does.
numbers? Do you
Yes.
understand how numbers work?
I do.
Well,
I do.
please explain to me
I just
how
explained
it is.
to
No,
you.
you didn't, because you didn't use any numbers.
You didn't use any numbers either.
I did. I give two. I give one argument using letters as examples.
I
give the
gave you
second
an
argument using
example with numbers as well. I said, well, if a company makes 10,000 profit a year, right? Then well, it's just going to make lesser profit. It doesn't matter. It's still making a profit. If you've got half a brain.
Whoa! Slow down. It's just going to make lesser profit. That was your statement.
Yeah.
And
You just
but
have to.
you realize that means that you're taking money from
I'm
someone
not
who's
taking money from
earned it.
Anybody.
Okay,
G.
then the government is taking money from people who have earned it and giving it to people who haven't
No.
earned it.
It's an expense. It's an expense, just like everything else is an expense. It's
No,
an
it's been
investment.
taken.
Listen
It's not
to me.
an investment.
Gee, shut up.
It's
and
not an
listen to
investment
me
because
for
it
a
doesn't
second.
return profit. It's not an investment because it doesn't return profit.
But that's what I'm trying to explain to you, you idiot. If you just let me speak, okay?
It's not
Shut
an
up for a
investment.
second. It is absolutely an investment
not.
because you're investing in a good employee that you want to come back to your company and continue working after the maternity leave, and you're investing in happy employees, which means happy employees means better quality work, means better quality employees, because good quality employees are not going to stick with your company if you screw them as soon as they get pregnant, right? You're
You have
not
to screw them
going
before
to
they get
get.
pregnant.
You're not going to, no, if you're a company, you're not going to get any good employees, any good quality people with half a brain working for your company if you do not offer them support. Nobody's going to work for
I'm
you.
not making
It's a
that
long-term
argument.
investment.
I'm not. Listen.
It's an investment that you have to count on.
Look, I'm not arguing against the morals. I don't
Me
disagree
neither.
with that.
I'm talking about economics.
That's
I'm
not.
talking
That's not a.
about,
That's a moral argument.
Listen
That's
to
not
me.
an economic
Listen
argument.
to me. I'm talking about investment. You know what investment is? It's when you put money into something and then over a long period of time, this money comes back to you. This money is going to come back to you because that employee that you supported short-termly is going to bring more money in the long term to your company.
How if they're not working for you? How
Because
if they're not working
first of
for
all,
you?
they'll be happy and they will have higher productivity.
But they're not
And
working.
second of all, they will be working for you. But if you screw them around as soon as they get pregnant, then they're not going to work for you. You're not going to get any good quality people work for you.
Nobody's
if you
talking
screw
about
them.
screwing
And
anybody around.
therefore,
You're just
it is
talking about
screwing.
numbers.
It is screwing if
The
you
numbers
turn
don't
your
add
back
up.
to your employees.
The numbers don't add up.
and it's you stop. Look, you're looking at 8 months, G. You're not looking at the long-term picture of 30 years. Okay, you have to look at the
8 months
long-term
is
picture,
important.
right?
It's a period of time and a number.
Yes, but you're doing the Slovak thing where you can't see past the end of your nose. Okay?
I'm not making the moral argument.
Me neither. I'm
just
making
did. You just said you
economic.
were
Can you please?
earlier.
No.
No, you've
I'm
changed
just
it.
saying that you can't see past the end of your nose. You're looking at the short-term profits rather than the long-term profits of the company.
I don't want the company to go bankrupt, which is the result. It's
Listen,
inevitable
if
to go
your
bankrupt. If you run it
company
like that.
goes bankrupt because you give maternity leave to your employees, then that is bad planning. I'm sorry, but it's bad planning and bad accounting. If that is the reason for your company to go bankrupt, then you should not have a company at all.
I'm not saying
Okay.
that. I'm not saying that. I'm not even making that argument, right? What I'm saying is that could somebody please show me the economics of how it's good to pay people to not work?
Well, I cannot show you it right now as I don't have a
you're not
computer or research in front of me.
And that doesn't factor in productivity because the situation that you described automatically assumes that the person is working at maximum efficiency.
Yes.
Now that's a massive problem for the employer because that is a variable. The employee's productivity is constantly variable.
And?
If you are taking time away from the company and resources away from the company, then you're leaving yourself with a giant hole and the potential for problems. And it doesn't add up.
Look,
The numbers don't add up.
I know, I understand that it is this demanding for a company to deal with this situation, but it is a normal situation that you have to deal with. It's like wanting to only have employees that never get sick. It's not realistic, G. It's just something you have to deal with because it's not realistic not to do it.
I'm not making the not sick
Right?
argument. I'm not making that argument.
I know, I'm
not
using
disagreeing
it
with
as an analogy, okay? I'm using it as an analogy. It's exactly the same thing. You just have to factor that in because it's going to happen. And I think that giving men the opportunity to take paternity leave is great for 2 reasons. One is that it will help women not to be discriminated against because they take maternity leave, right? So when employers employ women and men, they will equally have to factor in that when these people have children, they will both likely get out for a certain time, and therefore the employers will not prefer or will not prefer men over the women, but they will actually look at the actual skill set,
Okay,
right? Rather than the possible maybe wanting to get out for a few weeks because they might want to have children.
Okay, would you be able to?
Right.
Would you
Wait,
be
I didn't
prepared
make my
to-
second
okay,
point because I said that there were 2 points. So this was 1 point. And the second point was purely moral, that the men should have, for the good of the entire family, time off when their wife has a child because it is essential for bonding with the child and for helping the mother survive during those first weeks. Okay, because the woman needs support.
The only way to sustain that kind of situation, if you wanted to sustain that, the only way to sustain that is to pay people less.
The only way
That's the basic economics of it.
the only way to progress anywhere in a society is to sustain that. G.
Well, that's saying the only way to progress is to pay people less, because it's the same thing.
Well, if that's the way it is, it's the way it is. I'm sorry, but it's the only way to progress anywhere
Yeah, but
in a society.
but that's a loss. That's not progress.
Well, do you want the woman to expect to give birth and go straight back to work?
I'm not making a moral
Would
argument.
that be good? That would not be good.
I'm not making a moral argument. I'm making an economic argument.
Yes,
I'm
but
saying
you
the
have to
numbers don't
think
add
long
up.
term, right? You have to think 20, 50, 70 years, right? Because
Which
when you're a
99%
big company,
of businesses don't do.
right, you should, okay?
Well,
you
I
should,
do.
you should, okay, if you do that, then then there's going to be a next generation, right? If the next generation grows up in a home where 2 weeks after giving birth, the mother has to go straight back to work because she cannot afford to feed the child's going to grow up fucked up, right? Or at least having large psychological problems and depression, which is clinically proven that if a child goes to nursery before the age of 1, they do not form proper attachment to the parent, and they will end up with psychological problems, most likely depression, right? So if you do not want to have a generation of workers in 50 years' time with clinical depression and therefore lowered productivity, then you want to ensure that they have the parents there for the time that is necessary for them to grow in a healthy psychological way. Okay?
Okay, what determines the amount of pay that an employee gets?
Probably the profits of the company. I don't know. I'm not a businessman.
So that if you interfere with the profits of a company, or the market interferes with the profits of a company, then that affects what a person is able to be paid, right? You're talking about quality of life. Right, now, if you pay people slightly more, you increase their opportunity for quality of life. But if you pay people slightly less, you decrease their opportunity for quality of life. So, it logically follows from the situation that you have described that people will automatically be paid less.
Well, then those people will go to different companies that will be able to afford to pay more.
Wait, there are no different companies, there's only one market.
Yes, I know. But you have stronger companies, you have weaker companies, you have bigger companies, you have smaller companies, you have companies that make more profit, and you have companies who make less profit. You have companies that can afford to pay their employees more, and you have companies that cannot afford to pay their employees more, and the employees can choose which company they're going to work for, right?
Apart from the fact that everyone in Slovakia would say that that's not really the case in Slovakia, because the standard wage is so low that it's hard to live any kind of sustainable lifestyle.
I know that it's hard to live any kind of sustainable lifestyle out of the minimum wage in Slovakia, but because I've lived there, okay, but that's not the point I'm making. I'm making the point that... What point am I making? I'm making the point that... I'm making actually the same point that you made before. That when it's time for the leaves to die, they die, right? When it's time for a company to go bankrupt, it will go bankrupt because it is not run in a sustainable way. Because it did not factor in all the expenses that it should have factored in. And one of those expenses is maternity and paternity leave. Okay.
Do companies have expenses? Yes. Absolutely. Do those expenses drain the resources and cause the fixing of lower incomes? Yes.
Look,
so just lowering the income.
How does the amount that a company pays in taxes compare to the amount that they have to pay to their employees that have gone to the maternity and paternity leave?
It varies from country to country.
Well, so I mean, you compare these two things, right? And then tell me which one of them should be lowered. and which one of them should be raised and what should be avoided or whatever. You know, I mean, it's just an investment. It's just an expense.
Just an investment. It's numbers. It's important. It's not just. It's everything.
In fact, it is more important than the amount of money that people look, because the amount of money that you pay in taxes is gone. It's not investing into anything. It's gone. The amount of money that you pay to the employee that's on the maternity or paternity leave is direct investment, because that person is going to come back and bring value to the company.
That's automatically assuming that everything works out swimmingly, which is a giant variable and a huge risk for the company.
Of course it is a risk for the company, but companies take risks every day. They have to factor that in as well. That's what makes a successful company successful.
Is it a necessary risk?
Yes.
Because as I've already pointed out, companies will be forced to pay their employees.
But what alternative is there, G? There is no alternative to this.
There's always an
alternative. What alternative is there to this?
Number one.
Yes.
Reduce the basic tax rate on companies. Begin with that to 10%. Look, there are European countries that survive on 6 to 8%. Okay?
That's my point.
And have booming economies.
That's my point, okay?
Now that's step one.
That's exactly the point that I made just about like a minute ago.
Now, that reduction on the drain of the resources allows you to then do what you wanted to do, which is invest more in your employees. But you can't do that if you don't do the other steps first. What you're talking about is nice, but that's step 4 or step 5. You can't do it without doing step 1.
Your original argument was that it is the maternity and the paternity leave that is the drain on the company, and that is the problem. But that is not the problem. No. The taxes are the problem now. Do you understand that how you change the narrative?
Look, I did not say that maternity and paternity leave are the drain that's going to destroy the company. What I'm saying is economics. No, my argument is an economic argument about the numbers. My question is, where do the numbers come from? Where is the money coming from? How do you you want to create a sustainable environment for your employees, but you're not thinking about how the numbers work and all of the elements, all of the variable elements like market forces that companies have to factor in order to be able to provide things like maternity leave. I mean, maternity leave is highly dependent on an ability to predict market forces, and nobody knows what the fuck the stock price is going to be tomorrow. I mean, you talk about it like it's all automatically decided. The variables are so huge, and you talk about, well, all companies have risk. I'm not sure you understand how big that risk is.
I do understand that, but that is the company's choice to take those risks. It is their choice by entering the market.
Not if they're forced by law to conform to certain kinds of maternity payments. I'm not saying that maternity payments should not exist. I'm saying, how do you make it exist economically so that it's viable?
You have negotiables and you have non-negotiables, and you just have to count on that as a non-negotiable, as something that is not going to be
Just is not an argument. The word "you just have to" is not an argument.
Okay, well then I'm omitting the just. It doesn't change the meaning of the sentence in any way, okay? You have to factor in the maternity and the paternity leaves as something that is non-negotiable and that is not variable, because that is one of the investments that is not variable. That's just gonna be there whatever you do, right?
I go back to my Z and Y argument.
And it should.
I go back to my Z and Y argument. Let me show you the economic dominoes. Okay. Company Z employs employee Y to do job X, right? Employee Y after 2 years goes on maternity, paternity leave, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's say it's 8 months, okay, right? Now, you have to bring in another person and pay them
Yes.
to do that person's job.
I know.
Right. What if that other person gets pregnant and needs to go on paternity or maternity leave or whatever? You have to bring in another person to do that person's job. Do you see?
No, actually, you have a different type of contract with the other person that doesn't bind you to pay them, because they are only a substitute. They're not actual long-term employee with an open contract. There are different rules applying to that.
So do you think it's okay that different rules apply?
Yes. Yes, because it depends on the type of contract that you have.
So it's got nothing to do with getting pregnant, but everything to do with the contract.
Well, if you've got an open contract which suggests that you're going to work for this company indefinitely, and this company is investing into you long term. But when you've got a short term contract, like I'll give you a contract for 6 months, which is going to end on this and that date, and that person can get pregnant. They're not going to give birth within that period of time. It takes longer, right?
I rest my case.
Responsible for that.
I rest my case.
Good.
On that point, I rest my case, and let Joe Public decide what it decides. I rest my case.
Good, because I want to show you something.
What?
I want to show you something.
What? Where? Why? When?
I got presents for the girls for Christmas.
Already?
Yeah, I wanted to show you them.
Okay.
Some.
Okay.
It arrived. Wait a second.
Wait.
Let's show you it.
Let's.
Yeah, what?
Are we doing it live, or are we doing it on this, or?
Oh, I don't know. Do you want to finish first? How long have we been ranting?
Wait, give me a sec. I'm going to pause this. Give me a sec. Is resume and resume spelled the same way?
Resume has a accent coming from French.
But apart from that.
Yes.
Interesting. Yes, that's interesting.
Very interesting. Puppies and rainbows. I have to show you something.
Puppies and rainbows. That's because you're looking at pictures of dogs on your phone.
It's pink.
It's in a bag.
Check this out.
What is that?
Something I got for the girls for Christmas. Are you full of suspense?
Full of coffee.
It's big. It's fluffy. There's 2 of them. I'll show you just one. Okay. It's got glitter.
Oh my gosh. Pink. It's pink and glitter. It doesn't need anything else. Oh. Someone's coming.
Are they?
Wait. I thought I could hear. One of the boys or one of the girls.
Shut up. Well, you've seen it. What do you think?
Fishtails.
Yes.
Very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of accidents.
They're blankets.
What?
They're blankets. They're for chilling out and watching telly.
There's someone coming. I've just told you.
Are they?
You spoon.
But they're not. You just dreamt it.
What? I can't hear because you're doing. Look.
What?
Look. Good morning,
Good
Jazz.
morning, darling. Are you coming in?
To get warm. See?
Come on,
See?
come on, jump in the bed. Up.
You were
Come
rattling
on.
the bag.
You were right.
I know I was right. I'm always right.
Come on.
There's a reindeer in the bed. There's a reindeer under the blanket.
Oh my. Look, there he is. Oh, hello. Good morning. Are you going to climb in the duvet? Come on then.
Climb in.
Oh, snotty.
Over the cables
She's a little snotty girl.
and everything.
Mm-hmm.
and everything.
I was fast enough though.
Dude, you were fast twice. Twice. Oh, did you sleep okay, Jess? Yeah. Do you have any dreams?
No.
No,
No. Did you have a dream of me coming to your bed and cuddling you?
that wasn't a dream. That was real.
Hmm.
That was real. What would you like to do today, Jess? Silence.
That's a good idea.
It's overwhelming.
Let's do silence.
We have to do a lot of tidying up, I think.
I want to go back to sleep.
What?
Yes, we have to do a lot of tidying up, I think.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the list as long as my arm. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have to do a lot of laundry as well.
Laundry.
Undry. Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
Well, I guess what has to be done has to be done.
Yeah. Right, maybe we should say goodbye.
Never say goodbye. Never say- Yawning
Mm-hmm.
as the day is dawning.
Yep.
There you go. The sun is not up yet.
It is, you just can't see it.
I see a little bit.
Where is it?
Of
Oh,
sun over
sorry.
there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just turning my head to peek through the small gap in the curtain.
Saw some sun right over there.
Told you.
All right. You're right. You're right, just over the treetops, peeking between the clouds.
Nice.
There's a little bit of sunshine. Sunshine.
Oh, this girl is so cuddly.
Mm.
Mm.
She's being all cute this morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, girls both have cold. They both have runny noses.
That's because they're running around without clothes on most of the time.
Yes, well,
In a house that has
minus 30 degrees.
definitely sub-zero temperatures. Anyway. Anyway. That's it. Like
Yeah.
once again, I have not got to anything on my list. Once again.
You have what?
Not got to anything on the list. Like the Christmas tree and the decorations and earphones and football and accidents and biting tongues and
Oh.
watching the ref. Yada yada yada. So,
Ah, we had some good conversation though, no?
there we go. We did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure anything has been converted, but we've had conversations. There we go. Right.
Okay.
Say bye to the people.
Bye, people.
Bye to the people. Bye to the people. That's it. Done.